Hello everyone and welcome back to another Stormworks video. In this video we're going to be taking a closer look at the add-on editor here in game. Now the add-on editor in game is used to create some really cool missions and scripts using some powerful Lua in game. Now these scripts can range from very simple things like typing chat messages to going and spawning vehicles to going and having a full-on mission. For example, like Stormlink, where it's added new locations in the world where you need to go and deliver people to, for example, my rescue service that can actually send a helicopter or a boat to come and rescue you, to the hunger mechanics, which adds in food and eating into Stormworks. So in this video, we're going to have a little bit of a deeper dive into the add-on editor. I'm going to go through some of the basics with you, show you more or less how it actually works, and we're also going to be creating a couple little add-ons that we can go and test and just have some fun with. So that's it, let's jump straight into it and let's get started. Now before we get started, just a couple obviously disclaimers here. I'm completely self-taught when it comes to Lua and doing these add-ons. I'm not saying that this is the best way and it's the correct way, it's just the way that I do it and it's the way I've learned, and hopefully you guys can take a little bit of knowledge from this. So to get started, the first thing you want to do is you want to press the escape key and you want to get over to the add-on editor. Now, once we're inside the add-on editor, you can see it's gone and opened up a brand new add-on for us. Now, before we go into any more of the details of what any of this means and how to go into the Lua, the first thing I recommend you go and do for testing purposes is you go and rename this. So let's go and rename this to add-on editor example. And what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to go and save this. Now, the reason why I've gone and saved this is I'm going to actually close my game and I'm going to create a brand new world. Because that script that I've just went and saved actually isn't loaded into my game. It's just somewhere in a file, somewhere in Windows. So I want to actually get that inside my game. So I'm going to exit my game right now and we're going to create a brand new save. And we're going to make sure that we enable this add-on. That will allow us to actually start writing things, building the add-on, and actually test it while we're in game instead of having to completely exit, load again, exit, load again, etc. So we're going to start a brand new save. I'm going to go into custom game mode just because I don't need to bother with any of the settings. And then I'm going to go into my add-ons. Once I'm inside my add-ons, I can leave the official default ones enabled or I can disable them. It's completely up to you. I want to disable them because I'm only testing my add-on that I'm working with today. I'm going to go into my saved. I'm going to go and choose my actual little add-on I just went and created, and I'm going to start a new save. Now, once the save loads, it will load the script also. Now, there's actually nothing inside it, so it's not running anything at the moment. And that's where we're going to go into a few more minutes, and we're going to go and learn how the editor works and how we can build our first script. So we've just gone and loaded up our game here. Now, once we're in the world, we're going to go straight to our add-on editor, and we're going to make sure that we go and load our example. So you can see here, I'm just going to go into my example and I'm going to make sure I've loaded it. This is the one that we've just gone and saved, and we made sure that was part of this save game. Now that we're inside here, we can start learning about the basics of the add-on editor. Now it's broken up into different sections. Now, it's broken up into three actually. The first one is going to be the overview of the editor and the example. So here we can see the name, we can see if there's any environmental mods and any mission locations. Well, NJ, what is environmental mod and what's a mission location? Well, think of these as world places or world tiles. Okay, so you can come in here and we can say, hey, you know what, at the creative base, we want to go and maybe add a vehicle, and then inside the script, we're going to go and write something to go and spawn this. Okay, we're going and adding that as an asset, theoretically, into the world, okay, that we can use in a script later on. Now, of course, in the moment, we don't need that. And we'll go into a little bit more detail and I'll show you guys an example later on. I'm going to delete the location because we don't need it. Now, if you do have a location, we also have the location editor, which allows you to go and place vehicles or objects and so on in the world. As I said, we'll come back to that a little bit later in the video. The next thing we have and the last thing we have here is the add-on Lua. Now, as I said earlier on, I'm going to go over this. I'm completely self-taught. I'm not a professional. Some things I might be telling you here are not exactly the best way of doing things or exactly the right way of doing things. As I said, I'm not a professional coder. I don't know Lua 100%. I've learned everything I know from playing and experimenting here in game, and also reading some guides over on YouTube or on the internet. So once we're inside here, the easiest way for me to explain how Lua works, or at least how it works in Stormworks, is there's two main functions. Okay, now the first thing we can see here is our script. Okay, it's currently empty. I've deleted everything on here, and there's two other tabs that I'm going to point out to you right now. The first one is callbacks, and the second one is functions. You're probably thinking, what the heck is a callback and what the heck is a function? Well, think of callbacks as triggers. Okay, when something happens, go and do a function. Okay, so a callback is a trigger and a function is like an action. Okay, we're doing something. So there's a lot of different callbacks in Stormworks. You can see there's quite a few here. So for example, let's look at some very basic ones. On world create. So every time the world is created, like we just did a few minutes ago, then go and do something. Or maybe every single time someone goes and writes a command in chat, go and do something. Or every single time a player respawns, go and do something. Every time a vehicle is spawned, go and do something. And the things that it can do are these functions. For example, every single time let's say a player joins a game, I want the script to go and write a pop-up notification saying welcome to my game. These are things that you can accomplish using a callback and using functions. Now, of course, that's a very basic example of it. You can go into a lot more detail in how to use those. But at the moment, we're just learning the basics of it. We also have something called matrices. This is something that gets used with functions. We'll come back to that a little bit later on. We also have some examples by the developers that you can go and learn from if you want to. We're going to stay away from the examples because obviously we are learning right now. So we're going to create a script here. Now the script that I would like to create, I need to have this obviously idea in my head before we go and do anything. The first thing I would like to do is I want to create a very basic one. I want to do, let's for example say, if I come into my chat here and I write a command $hello. I want the game to pop up with a notification on my screen saying, hello, how are you? Now, of course, that's a very basic example, and you probably won't use it that often here in Stormworks, but it's a good starting point to learn how Lua works. So we're going to go into my add-on editor, and we're going to start with an actual callback. Yeah, so when something happens. So my when is going to be when a custom command is written in the chat. So I'm going to go and copy that. Now, there are a little bit of information just above it here. I would definitely recommend you go and read that information. It does tell you a little bit of what it does and how you can use it. I'm going to go to my script and I'm going to paste it. So now this function runs or gets called every single time there's a custom command in the chat. Now, these are some variables over here that you can use later on. For example, we can see what the full message is. We can see what the here ID is, or the user number, for example. We can see if they're an admin, if you're playing on multiplayer or dedicated servers. You can see if they've authorized to use a workbench. Once again, dedicated servers. You can see what the command is that they've written, and you can see what else they've written after that command. And that's what we use arguments for. Let's go into a little more detail about command and arguments. If I was to go into my chat, just imagine this is my chat over here, and I was to write hello. The game considers that to be a command. What happens if I was to go and write hello player 1, for example? Player, because I've used a space, player would be a argument, and I can get as many arguments as I want from that command. So for example, argument, let's say argument 1, and let's do argument 2. So if I was to type this in chat, it would come back in the script as a command, a argument 1, and argument 2. Okay, and I can use these to do different things later on. Great example of this would be, for example, let's say I want to teleport to a certain location. I could do $teleport, and I can do I want to teleport to maybe 4000x and 8000y. The game would read that as a command, an argument, and an argument, okay? Because that's how we're defining it over here. I said that's going a little bit more into a little bit complex. We won't get into that right now. Let's just do a very basic command. So how do we check to see if someone has gone and typed something? Well, at the moment, as I said, it's getting called every single time someone writes a command in chat. Now, we don't want to pop up on our screen for every single time someone writes something. We want to only pop up if someone writes $hello. So we're going to write if, we're going to add a little statement here, if the command equals text $hello, then go and do something and end it. So we're ending this, okay, and we're doing something. Obviously, I've just put an X there as a little bit of a placeholder. We'll fill that out with something later on. So it's checking to see if someone goes into the command and writes $hello. If someone writes $goodbye, nothing happens because we don't care about that. So what would we like to do when someone writes $hello? Well, we can go into our functions and we can find something we want to do. I would like to go and notify, let's say, that player that, hello, how are you? I can even do a chat message if I want to. It's completely up to you. For our example, we're going to do a notify. So I'm going to go and grab this and I'm going to paste it in. And I'm going to paste it in here. So every time a command is written in chat, go and do something. Then you can only do it if the command is equal to $hello. And the thing you're doing is notifying the player. Now you'll notice there's some variables in the notify and we need to fill that out with information. The first question is, who are we sending that notification to? Now at the moment, we could use -1. That would send it to all the players currently loaded into the world. Obviously, you're playing in single player. -1 is fine because it's only ever going to send it to you. What happens if I'm playing on multiplayer with my friends and I only want this message to be sent to the person that typed it? Well, here we're actually already getting that information from the actual callback, okay, from the trigger. The trigger's already got that data in it. So we can use that and just simply paste it where we want it. So now it's only notifying the person that's gone and written this command. The next question is, what is the title and what is the message? Well, the title, once again, it's text. So we open up our quotation and we're going to do hello. And the message is going to be, how are you? ? The last thing we have here is going to be the notification type. If you go back to the functions, you'll notice there's a couple different ones here, actually 9 or 10 of them. Now, I want it to be called a chat message, so I'm going to use 8. I'm going to go script, we're going to replace notification type with 8. Okay, so now every single time something is typed in chat, if the command is equal to hello, then notify the person that's typed it, saying hello, how are you? Please end the if statement, and we also need to end the entire function. Now, if you wanted to get a little bit technical here, usually you should use a tab here. It makes it a little bit easier to go and read your Lua script. For example, I know this is the start and this is the end. This is the start and this is the end. And in between, it's doing this. Okay, so it makes it a little bit easier for us to read this. So let's go and test this. Obviously, we want to make sure we don't have any errors, which we don't. And we're going to go and save this on top of our example that we've already got. Do you want to override it? Yes, I do. I can now close the editor. Now you probably think, well, okay, that's great. I can just type in $hello. Well, no, you can't. Nothing is going to happen. That's because the script is still working on the old script that we loaded earlier on, which was blank. We need to refresh it or reload it. To do that, you can come into chat once again and type reload_scripts. That will reload your script with new data that you've just gone and saved on top of. So now if we go and type in $hello, we should get a notification up on our screen here saying, hello, how are you? Let's go and do $hello. And there we go. We've now got a little message on our right hand side of the screen asking, how are we? Okay, now of course you could continue this to be a completely long script, and you could check every single message, and you could change obviously what the answer is every single time. It's completely up to you. So that's a very, very basic example. Let's go and build on this, and let's make it a little bit more in detail. Now, instead of getting a chat message, I would like to go and maybe spawn a vehicle in. That could be a really great example. So I've opened up my add-on example over here. The next thing we need to do is we need to go and add that vehicle into Stormworks, or into the script. So we're going to go to mission location, and I'm going to go and use, for example, let's use the ocean. Okay, let's go and use the ocean. We could, if we wanted to, use the creator base, but then the vehicle would only ever spawn at the creator base. Actually, let's start with this so you guys can see how this works. So we've got creator base. Let's rename this to, let's say island. Okay, let's rename that to island. You don't have to rename it. I like to do it. Rename it, and let's go and add our vehicle. So edit object. We're going to click on add vehicle, and let's go and choose my vehicle over here. Let's do the biplane that we built earlier in the week. So we're going to place it just over there. Okay, simply just over there. You can do a couple more things here. As I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that in this video. We're going to go back now to our overview, and I've got my island here. Now what I would like to do is when I go and type, for example, another message, so let's say if I go into chat and I do, let's say, question mark plane, then I want you to go and spawn my plane. Okay, so I want you to go and spawn my plane. So let's go and see if there's a function called spawning or something like that. So as I said, this is broken into different sections. This is the UI section. We can scroll down to player section, object section. There is quite a lot of information in here. Vehicle. We could go down to AI. We could go on to add-on, and there's more and more data if you go on. Now I want to spawn that location. Okay. Now you'll notice that underneath the add-on area, it says directly spawn a location by the name from the current add-on. Great, that works for me. So I'm going to go and copy this. Okay, I'm going to copy the whole thing. I'm going to go back to my script, and I'm going to place it where I've got my placeholder of X. Now you're probably thinking, well, what the heck is this is success? The is success gets called or turns to true if it actually does spawn it in. Okay, so we could use that later on to maybe send a chat message and say, hey, you've just spawned this. It has been successfully spawned, for example. Of course, you don't have to use that, so we could get rid of it, and we could just leave the function, which is server.spawn this add-on and the name. What's the name? Well, the name is called island. So we're going to go back here. We're going to put our exclamation or quotation marks, and we're going to write island. So if I write question mark plane in chat, it should spawn this location called island. Let's go and test it. Save it, add it on here. Let's close our editor. Let's reload our scripts. So question mark reload underscore scripts. Done. And now if I do question mark plane, we should get a plane here. So let's do chat question mark plane. Great, so now we've got our vehicle spawned right in front of us. But what happens if we would like to spawn this vehicle somewhere else? Maybe we would like to spawn it maybe on the multiplayer island, or maybe we want to spawn it on the soy islands. And we want to go into chat here, and maybe we want to do, let's say, spawn plane at 8,000 by 4,000. And we want the plane to go and spawn at that location. How do we go and accomplish that? Well, we can go into the add-on editor, and we're actually going to go and delete the island. Okay, we're going to delete the entire location, and instead we're going to be using an ocean tile instead. I like an ocean tile. It doesn't have anything on it. It makes it a little bit more easier to work with. So we're going to leave this as ocean. I like to use a lowercase. Just be aware that in Lua, it does read uppercase and lowercase. Just be aware of that. So we're going to go into edit objects, and we're going to go simply scroll in, and we're going to go and place my biplane, and we're going to stick it over there. Okay, it's just like that, nice and simple. Now, if you click on the biplane, there is a couple of things that you can change in here. One is if you want to add some tags. I'm not going to go into details about that. That's quite advanced. You can also add a name for this. So we could say this is the plane. Okay, I can also tell it to spawn relative to the seat floor. I can tell it it's static. I can tell it to keep the vehicle active all the time, even if you've gone out of the area. I can do, is it editable? So can I edit it in the workbench? Can I show it on the map? Yes or no? Is the transponder active? Yes or no? Okay, so you can change some of these settings. We don't need to change any of it now. All I've gone and done is named it plane. We can go back to our overview, and now we can go into our Lua script. Now I want to get rid of this spawn location. Okay, so I don't want to spawn the creator base anymore. So instead, what I'm going to go and do is I want to go and spawn that plane, but at my own coordinates that I choose. So we can go into functions again, and we can go in and find if there is a function that we can do that with. And there is. There's this one just over here. It says server spawn add-on location at a certain matrix. What's the add-on index and what's the location index? Okay, so we're going to be using this to go and do that. So I'm going to grab that function. I don't need any of this information, so I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to grab this, copy it, go back to my script, and I'm going to paste it in. Now, this function needs information. It needs the location, it needs the index of my add-on, and it also needs my location index. So it needs quite a few different things. Let's start by getting where it wants us to spawn this. Okay, where does it want us to go and spawn this? Well, remember earlier on we spoke about commands. So if, let's imagine someone goes into chat and types in, let's say plane at 8,000 by 4,000, and let's say the altitude is 50. Okay, so let's go and do that. That's the command. That's argument 1, argument 2, and argument 3. Okay, so argument 1, argument 2, we need to add one more. Argument 3. Okay, so command 1, 2, and 3. And I know that I'm using command or argument 1 as maybe my X location. I'm using argument 2 as, let's say, my Y location, and let's say I'm using argument 3 as my altitude. Okay, just imagine that. So now we can go and add that into here. Okay, we can add this into here. Now, of course, we spoke about matrices earlier on. Okay, very briefly. Now, when you go and give this data, you don't give it the X, Y, and Z location. You actually have to give it a matrix. So how do we go and convert my X, Y, Z into a matrix? Well, you can go in here and you can go and see. Let's see what it is. There we go. Return a matrix X, Y, and Z. Okay, and give us a matrix out. Cool, let's go and use that one. We can copy it, bring it into my script, and we can add it in here. So we're going to say, hey, you know what? Argument 1 is going to be my X. Argument 2 is going to be my Z. When it comes to matrix in Lua scripting, the X and Y is actually not X and Y. Y is actually the altitude. Don't ask me why. It just is. You have to get used to it. Okay. So when we do the X and Y, we're actually just changing it around a little bit. Okay. So just be aware of that. So let's go in here. So we got X, we got Y, and then Y here is actually our altitude. Okay. So just remember that X is your X location, Y is actually your height, and then Z is actually your Y in theory. Okay, so just be aware of that. So now we've got our alt matrix. So it's converting whatever I type in the chat to one single matrix. We're going to now use that matrix to go and spawn my add-on location. The next question is, what is the add-on index? Well, how do we find that? Well, let's go and find out. Get the internal index of this add-on. There we go. Cool. Let's go and copy that and put that in, let's say, before my translation. So server get add-on index, and we're going to call it add-on index. Do we need it is successful? No, we don't care if it returns nothing or not. So add-on index we have, alt matrix we have. The last thing we need is the location index. How do we find location index? Let's go and check. Server get location index. There we go. Cool. So we can go and use this again. So let's go and copy that. Let's paste that in under my add-on index. Now we have the add-on index already, which is over here. We just need the name. What did we call it? Ocean. Perfect. So let's go and call it Ocean. Great. Do we need SSX fill? No, we don't. We'll get rid of it. So what's happening now? If someone types in plane 400, 800, whatever, it then goes and gets the add-on index of this add-on. It also goes and gets the location index of the ocean, which is this thing over here. It then goes and gets my X, Y, and Z that I've typed in chat and calls it a matrix. And then it goes and spawns that location at my X, Y, and Z wherever I want. Okay, which is pretty cool. Let's go and check for errors. There is no errors currently here. Let's go and save that. And let's go and reload my scripts. So reload _ scripts. Done. Now where would I like to spawn this? Well, let's go and spawn it maybe over here. Now that X and Y is on the right at the bottom of my screen. Negative 6080, negative 908. So we can start our chat. Plane. What's the X location? Minus 6085. What's the Y location? Negative 900. And what's the altitude that I want to spawn it at? Let's say 50 alt. If I press that in, it should spawn a plane in front of me here on that location at about 50 altitude. There it is. And there it goes and drops down. Okay, so you can see how I've used some arguments, some values, and some data here to go and spawn that plane in. Now, of course, we could go and despawn that plane if we wanted to. I'm not going to go and show you guys how to do that. I think this is a great place to finish off here of the very, very basics of how to use the mission add-on editor. Gone over and how to create your editor and your add-on. Remember, create a new one, call it your name, save it, and start a new world to load that add-on in. Once you've done that, you can add locations if you want them, and then you can start going and building your Lua script. Remember, you have callbacks, which are like triggers, and you have function, which are action. Every time a trigger happens, you can do some functions or actions. You also have examples if you want to go and learn from the developers, and you can get some more information here in the general section. And then lastly, you have your script. Okay. So guys, that is it. That's the very basics of how to use the add-on editor. I have got another video prepared and ready for you guys on how to create your first mission, where you can go and check to see if a player has gone and traveled to a certain location in the world. That way you can create your own delivery missions. You can go and create your own cool missions using that. Obviously, that video will come out later on, but in the meantime, here is a great little overview and a little intro into how to use the add-on editor here in Stormworks. As always, let me know your comments in the video description below. If you guys are looking for any certain ones, let me know in the comments, please, and I will do my best to try and make those videos for you. And if you have enjoyed this, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And until next one, we will see you then.